What is up? What is going on, everybody? And it has been a minute since I've made a Mariners video. I do apologize, but I am back. We're going to talk some injury news and just talk about the excitement of opening day as it is right around the corner. First of all, if you're new here, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I'm closing in on 3,000 subs. I'm under 300 away. So thank you to everybody that has subscribed and listens to my takes. I truly do appreciate it. Hit the like button, everybody, if you can. That helps out the channel and the video tremendously. And if you're going to T-Mobile for opening day weekend, download the SeatGeek app or go to their website and use promo code JS Trident for $20 off. Your seats on your first, it's a one-time use promo code. So go ahead and use it for $20 off your tickets. So go ahead and use that if you're heading to T-Mobile or any ballpark this weekend. Maybe you're going somewhere else. Go ahead and use that promo code and it'll save you $20 off your first purchase. So again, apologize for the background. If you guys know, I'm in the middle of a move. And I mentioned it a few weeks ago. My father passed away a few weeks ago. So thank you to everybody that offered your prayers and your sympathy. I truly, truly appreciate it. I had people message me and reach out, and that just means the world to me that you guys care that much. So I really do appreciate it. So we're just going through a lot, moving some things around, trying to figure some stuff out. So I apologize for the background, the lighting being off. But as I always say, maybe you're listening to this more than you are watching this, hopefully. So some injury news for the Mariners. Bryan Woo is going on the injured list with some elbow inflammation. Anytime you hear the word elbow and pitcher and inflammation injury list, you immediately jump and think Tommy John. So that was my first thought when I heard that. Now, Justin Hollander said that they think it's something more similar to last year when Woo missed, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. I think it was around the All-Star break. They put him on the IL, and he missed a handful of starts. So I'd expect something similar. But you guys know my philosophy with pitcher injuries. Until I see them back on the mound, I'm nervous, right? Like, elbow inflammation can become something else very quickly. Now, it could just be the inflammation. That's that. I'm not trying to play, doom and gloom here over it. It might be fine, but Robbie Ray was going to be out a month. Marco Gonzalez is just going to miss a couple starts. These things happen with pitcher injuries. Now, it's good that Justin Hollander came out and said they don't think that's what, and backtrack a little bit. Woo had the MRI. I should mention that. It's not like, oh, we don't think it's going to be anything. We're waiting on an MRI. He had the MRI. No structural damage or anything was revealed there. Still nervous. Like I said, until I see these guys on the mound, I'm nervous. But hopefully best case scenario, and Emerson Hancock will fill in for a handful of starts. Now, this has also brought up the question of should the Mariners have signed another starting pitcher? I had a video way back in the early of the offseason talked about, I thought they did need to add another starting pitcher. I wasn't, and I'm a big on Bryan Woo. I'm not as high on Bryce Miller. That doesn't mean I'm low on Bryce Miller. I think a little higher Bryan Woo. I like the arsenal a little bit more. Miller's splitters looked good so far, so I'm encouraged. But my concern with Miller was just being a one-pitch pitcher. And I thought adding another starter may allow you to start one of these guys in AAA just to give them either some time for Miller maybe to develop the splitter or for Woo just to prevent injury, limit the innings a little bit. And it didn't have to be anybody special. Martin Perez would have been someone that would have been, kind of an interesting 1-year deal, throw him at the back end of the rotation. So I know a lot of people are kind of up in arms here because it's like, oh, this team should have signed another starting pitcher. And I did advocate for that earlier in the offseason, and I would have been fine with it. I would have been fine with Blake Snell. I talked about that several times. I'm also fine with them not giving Blake Snell, a huge contract and letting someone else do that because his pitching is really good. This is a really deep it's a really good rotation. Deep might not be the best word. I think it's pretty deep rotation, but Castillo, Gilbert, Kirby, Woo, Miller, listen, could you improve in the back there? Maybe, we'll see how Bryce Miller does, but that's a darn good rotation and it's hard to beat that. And, Emerson Hancock, I think as far as 6 starters go, if you want to call him that, I think that's a pretty good guy to have back there, a former top 10 draft pick, was touching 97, 98 in spring this year, which was great to see. I know the numbers weren't great, but we're talking about 9 innings of work. You wouldn't judge any pitcher based off 9 innings in the regular season. We shouldn't do it in spring either, especially when a lot of pitchers are working on stuff. And working on different pitches. So I wasn't blown away by Emerson Hancock last year at the major league level or in spring training necessarily. The velocity uptick was good to see. Again, this is a former top 10 pick. And it's funny, out of, the arms that the Mariners have, Hancock was drafted higher than any of them. So I have faith that Emerson Hancock can fill in fine at the back end of the rotation. And then, guys, part of it is just injuries happen. It's unfortunate, and hopefully Brian Wu is back soon. And I get it. Like I said, I wanted the team to sign another starting pitcher too. I would have been totally fine with that. But at some point, like, you can only withstand so many injuries. I've heard people say, well, what happens now if Gilbert or Kirby or Castillo get hurt? Like, that would stink. That would stink no matter who the Mariners had signed as a starting pitcher. Like, unfortunately, you can't stash, Spencer Strider in AAA and bring him up. You have depth and you have a few guys, but to me, after 6, 7, in line, what would be your starting rotation? Figured Emerson Hancock 6, I don't know, Levi Stroud 7. I don't know who is Tom. I always joke about Tommy Malone. He's probably sitting down there somewhere in Tacoma. When you get to 8, 9, there's not much you can do. You're hurting. You're losing 2, 3 starters. And for all the talk that the Mariners haven't done a good job with pitching depth, they did a pretty good job last year. I mean, Robbie Ray got hurt and pitched 2 innings last year. And listen, I think missing Robbie Ray hurt, but I think they bounced back pretty good from it. Bryce Miller came up and pitched well. They tried Chris Flexen for a while. That didn't work. But even, someone like Flexen was good depth. I mean, he was terrible last year, but coming off what he did in 21 and 22, you figured that's a pretty good number 6 starter to have. And then Marco got hurt as well, and Brian Wu filled in admirably. Now, again, Miller and Wu, I thought, lost some steam in September. And I thought that the team should have acquired a starting pitcher at the deadline. So this isn't to say like Jerry, Justin, whoever walk on holy water and have done everything right. But I do think the depth is pretty solid. And I know people are saying, well, Jay, they lost Robbie Ray and they needed him late in the year. And yes, Robbie Ray would have been huge, but like, you can't expect your guys behind those starters to be as good. Like, if the Mariners lose George Kirby and Luis Castillo tomorrow, there's nothing you can do. You're not going to be that good. You can have some okay depth, but you're not going to be able to replace those guys at all. So I think all in all, like, Emerson Hancock is a pretty good guy to come up and fill in that void. And hopefully Brian Wu's back pretty quickly, and hopefully Hancock performs well and they can take it easy with Wu, because you don't want to rush him back either. He's got the injury history. So I'd prefer, if they can, to be patient with him. Now, if Hancock struggles or Miller struggles, you still don't want to rush anybody back, but you certainly be itching more to get Brian Wu back in the rotation. So looks like the Mariners have avoided a disaster, maybe not disaster, but a serious injury there to Brian Wu. Hopefully he's back on the mound here soon. And the Mariners can get their rotation rocking and rolling. Matt Brash, I think Ryan Divish reported, was throwing at 75, 80%. And sounds like he's getting closer and closer. So, I'm sure he'll have to throw some simulated innings or maybe make a quick rehab appearance, but hopefully mid to late April. I would assume more later. Again, I think Brash is an arm you want to be cautious with. Not that you're not cautious with every single arm, but, you're going to be a little more cautious with the Matt Brash than you would a Ryan Stanek. You know what I mean? Like, it's a more valuable arm. So again, a lot of it depends on the team performance. If they're holding serve and doing fine, give Brash April, give him the month, give Brian Wu the month if Emerson Hancock's performing fine. And in some way, and again, this is assuming these guys come back and pitch. Obviously, until they're on the mound, we don't know. But it could kind of be an odd blessing in disguise a little bit, because, Brian Wu's going to miss a handful of starts. It may allow him to be a little fresher down the stretch. Matt Brash not having the stress of an April on him may allow him to be a little more fresh over the summer. I don't know. I'm just looking for the silver linings there. And maybe I shouldn't do that with injuries. I don't mean that to be offensive or anything to any of the injuries, saying, oh, it could be a good thing. Injury is never a good thing, but it could, if they can get back and they're healthy, it could play out to the Mariners' advantage, possibly. I think Gregory Santos is having an MRI Thursday, or it's either tomorrow or Thursday. Santos is going to have an MRI done. So a little bit more nervous about Santos because, he threw the one pitch and then said he felt something, and which is good. Like if you feel something, stop. I swear a lot of injuries come from guys not stopping. They just try to push through it. I wonder a little bit Robbie Ray last year. You go back and look at that start in Cleveland, and he just looked off from like the second inning on. And I think he tried to pitch through it. That might have made it worse. I admire guys trying to play through injuries. But it's obviously not something you should do. So hopefully that, fingers crossed on that, because you really want that big three at the back end of the bullpen. And again, you're going to rely a lot on a guy like Ryan Stanek here in April, Gabe Spire, Saucedo, and then Carlos Vargas was sent down to AAA. I just think he's got to work on that command control before he can be a legit weapon at the MLB level. And I think he can be. The stuff is there. But he'll be sent down. So the bullpen's starting to round into form a little bit here with what we'll see on opening day. Once the roster was the roster officially released? Maybe it was in the time I made this video. So just checked real quick while I was there. I was like, maybe they did release it. No, at least according to MLB.com, it's not out yet. But, you'll see Trent Thornton obviously will play a role in this bullpen. Colin Snyder is the guy that might make this team. Cody Bolton, I think will make the team here. What happened to Bizzardo? I haven't heard anything about him this spring at all. He looked good last year. A couple other injury notes. So talked about Brian Wu, talked about the bullpen. Sam Haggerty is going to begin the year on the IL with a non-baseball related injury. So hopefully everything's okay. Obviously prayers for Sam and his family. Hopefully everything's fine there. And then Samad Taylor was also optioned to AAA. So a little surprised. Thought Haggerty had a pretty good shot to make the team. But I think with, Dylan Moore on this roster and, even like a Luke Raley who can play some first base in a pinch too, I think you have enough utility depth here. And, Rojas and Urias can play anywhere in the infield if you need them to. They could go to second base. Polanco could play third. Not saying you're going to do this whole time, but, you've got those type of guys that can move around. Obviously still Dylan Moore, who can literally play every position outside of catching, which he could probably do in a pinch as well. So Haggerty will not begin the season with the opening day roster. I'm not sure if he would have made it anyways, but he'll be on the IL. And like I said, obviously prayers for Sam and his family. Just hope everything is okay there. Brian Anderson was released, the third baseman. A little surprised, thought that he might have an outside shot, but listen, they traded for Luis Urias. So, and again, I always say I'm not here to spark a debate about the trade. I was fine with the trade. Doesn't mean I'm the hugest fan of Urias, but I'm not against ever trading a kind of a mid reliever for a position player. I think that's something you should do. And Urias has had success in this league. So I think once, he showed the ability to be able to hit and play third base, make the throws and do all that they were comfortable now with him being able to make the opening day roster and be ready for opening day. So Brian Anderson was released. Maybe they try to bring him back, sneak him into Tacoma, and see what happens there. So, but yeah, Brian Anderson released, and we're getting closer now to finding out the open day roster. Like I said, the only thing is just certain guys will go on the IL, Brian Wu, Matt Brash, Santos, and we may see a few guys fill in there, but I think we're pretty much there. And guys, opening day is 2 days away. I'm going to have a couple videos out tomorrow, so watch out for those. I'll be on with Rooftop. We'll be doing kind of a preseason prediction thing. I am going to hopefully tomorrow night have my predictions up from the Jag pages on Twitter. His little prediction spreadsheet that he had people fill out and answer questions. I will hopefully have that video up. I've been meaning to do it for about a week and a half, and I just have not had a chance to. Also on Thursday, look out on Jake. You love to see it. His podcast here on YouTube. Watch out for that. I've got some predictions up on there. He's doing a video with a bunch of content creators and getting some of their predictions in. I should have some updates on the Content Creator Fantasy Baseball League, which I was a part of, with Mariner Muse, Jake from You Love to See It, Mojo, Joe and Colton, Marine Layer Podcast, Couch GM, I missed someone there, I do apologize, but that was a ton of fun. So I'll do some updates on that throughout the year and how my team is doing compared to theirs. And guys, we have made it. Opening day is 2 days away. I just, it's exciting. I'm tired. I'm exhausted from work, but I'm super excited for opening day. And I absolutely believe this team can win this division. I've predicted that. You guys heard me with Ty on Locked On Mariners. I said I think this team's going to win the division. I think this team can win the World Series. I absolutely do. I do want to clarify. That's not me trying to say like, oh yeah, like Mariners got this division all day, baby. This isn't, like maybe a 2014 Seahawks thing where I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty confident they're winning. Houston and Texas are great teams. This is not going to be an easy division to win. If I just joked with Jake, we were doing our video, and I joked with him, if I fell into a coma, woke up, and you told me the Astros won the division, I would not be surprised, would not be shocked in the slightest. So this isn't like this is locked, set in stone that the Mariners are going to do this, but I do feel confident that this is a very good baseball team. If they can stay healthy, which we're already seeing a little bit of test on that, I absolutely do think that they can win this thing. Or certainly win the division. And listen, here's the thing. Like, if you think they can win the division, you think they can win a World Series because you're already past the wild card round and you're a division champ. You can win the ALDS and the ALCS. If you're a division champ, you're probably a 92, 93 win team. Why not? Right? You've clearly had a better season at that point than Texas and Houston in your division. So who's your competition? Minnesota, Cleveland, the Yankees, Baltimore. You can beat those teams in a series. Again, they might not. The Mariners might not win the division, but I absolutely believe they can. This pitching staff, even with the Brian Wu injury, the top three is good as you can find. I saw a tweet the other day. I forgot who made it. It was Logan Gilbert kind of highlight reels. Like, imagine this being your number three. I mean, guys, Logan Gilbert is like, top 10 pitcher, at least in the American League, maybe even higher than that. I'm not going through the whole league. He's Mariners' number 3 starter. And I know like that doesn't mean a whole lot where they're slotted in to rotation. Like, Jamie Moyer was getting starts over Felix in 2006. That didn't mean that like he was better, but like, George Kirby, Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, even if you missed Brian Wu for the season, I think that alone is enough in your rotation. Just please, Gregory Santos, be healthy. And if he can be healthy, your back into the bullpen has a big 3 that I would put up against anybody with Munoz, Brash, and Santos. And you got an offense, and I get it. It's spring. We shouldn't read too much into it, but you got an offense that is mashing in spring training. Are we seeing the maturation of Dom Canzone? Is Dom Canzone a breakout player here for 2024? I think it's very possible. I liked Canzone a lot when he came over. I did a video on the Sewald trade. I liked the trade at the time. I love Paul Sewald, but I absolutely, in fact, even in a preview of a trade, I mentioned Dom Canzone as a guy the Mariners might look to acquire. I love Dom Canzone. So, he's looked great in spring. We can get a breakout from him. Mitch Haniger, healthy. If we can get, I'm not expecting 2021 Mitch Haniger, but even 22 Mitch Haniger being healthy through the whole season. A Ty France bounce back. And I'm not asking Ty France to be bounced back like he's winning an MVP, but bounce back to at least somewhat of 2022 Ty France. I think Rojas and Urias can be okay as a platoon. I do. Listen, I get the frustration with that. I do from people, but I really do think it can work out. Rojas hit righties when he came over to Seattle last year. He's looked good against them in spring. I think it can work. We know what you're going to get from JP. You got Cal, got Julio, who I believe will be the American League MVP. I mean, just, going through that. Jorge Polanco, and even talk about Jorge Polanco. And you have a real DH now in Mitch Garver, an actual designated hitter. You're not rolling out Tommy La Stella, opening day DH. And listen, I've defended that in the sense of like, I don't think that was their plan for La Stella to be the DH, but their plan didn't work and it led them to Tommy La Stella having to DH. Now you've got Mitch Garver. You've got a legit hitter at designated hitter. I mean, Luke Raley, I know he didn't have a great spring, but was a great piece for the Rays last year. You've got him now, and he can be versatile as well. He can play some first base for you if Ty needs it. You've got Dylan Moore fully healthy. Dylan Moore had that core injury last year, and I don't think he ever really got his feet underneath him. Dylan Moore is a good hitter, and he's not useless against righties either. Am I super stoked about Sevi Zavala as a backup catcher? No, but he's a good defensive catcher. Should help with some of the pitchers, maybe with Wu and Miller, steal some strikes for them. Jorge Polanco, like I said, I didn't mention him, then I did. Now I'm mentioning him again. Listen, there's some risk, right? I could go negative and talk about, will Mitch Haniger stay healthy? Will Polanco stay healthy? Are they dealing with rotation injuries and bullpen injuries? I get it. I absolutely get it. But guys, this is a good baseball team. And I truly, truly believe that. I really do. I think you've got 3 pitchers that could all be in the Cy Young conversation. If Santos is healthy, you've got a back end of a bullpen that I'll put up against anybody. I swear I'm repeating myself, but I'm excited. I think you've got the American League MVP and Julio Rodriguez on your roster. That alone is probably good enough to compete. And then all the other stuff I talked about. Now, opening day, Ty France grounds into a double play, and I'll be back into, well, they stink, but you guys know what I'm getting at. So sorry, kind of an odd video. I just wanted to get back on here, talk a little Mariners. Like I said, watch out for the videos coming out here the next couple days. Should be a lot of good content. Let's go baseball. Baseball is back. And listen, even if the Mariners are projected to win 50 games, I'd be excited for baseball. Bad baseball is better than no baseball. So even if you're not excited about this team, should at least be excited that baseball's back, right? You got to love this game. So, all right, guys, that's all I've got for you. Went over some of the injuries, roster moves, some stuff for 2024. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, use that promo code if you're going to the Mariners game. Have a great night, everybody. I'll have some videos up tomorrow. Go Mariners. We are 2 sleeps away from opening day. Peace.